Okay, everybody, I want to go ahead and get us kind of acclimated and get us started here. So let me get the mute off of this jewel, wherever I had it, and we'll take a look. Hang on just a minute. There it is. Hopefully this will be better. Now, we're going to be using a different learning management system. Those of you who've taken classes with me before know that I utilize have utilized Moodle. What we're going to be using is Canvas, and I'm going to visit with you some about a little bit of a new process that we're using. We're going to try using a screencast technology that allows me to basically live stream a class session and then record it and save it over at YouTube. And I want to talk with you about what we're going to try to do with that to make things a little bit better for you in terms of dealing with situations where you have to be out of town, athletes, you work, etc. So if you'll go over to OBU, the website, and then click on search, and I think I've sent invitations out to everybody for Canvas. And you log into Canvas just like you do with your email. Okay, so far so good. And this will take me into my dashboard. You should have a dashboard too that shows all the courses that you're taking. Obviously, this is data admin, and we'll take a look at it. And I want to just spend a little bit of time talking about navigating this because it's a little bit different than Moodle. I think it has a little bit cleaner look, and I'm going to run through these with you. Now, right now, for example, and I'll click this. You can see on your screen, I'm recording a video, and basically this screencast, and then I'll save this thing over at YouTube. And I'm going to do this with each class session so that if you miss a class session, you don't have to be here. And I'm thinking about maybe having one of the days be a virtual day where I screencast it out. I think probably Tuesday I may just do that as a screencast, have it out there for you to take a look at. And if you know me, you know the typical way I do this. I have exams built in and then maybe hands-on at the end of the course. And then we do a lot of lab work, and it's the same thing in this course. Now, just in terms of navigating around in Moodle, it's a little bit different, and I want to start with one of the things that can kind of confuse me first of all, and that's probably somebody joining me right there. On the syllabus, it says syllabus. That is a place that you will see everything that's due and the time and date that it's due. So it's a little confusing. I don't know why they did it like this when they designed this learning management system, but as you can see, it says syllabus. So if you want to know where everything's at, you can navigate right there. You can see exactly what you've got, what is due. Now, they also have it divided into assignments. I'll click on it for a minute. This is stuff where you'll upload a file, okay? And then they have a thing down here called quizzes. And these are exams that you have, okay? And now, you're also going to see some things on this screen here that you don't have on your screen because I don't have this set up in student view. There's some things I'm going to want to do before I go back to that. I'll go to the announcements section, okay? And I have a link here to the live class, to this live class session that we're having today. So when we're finished here today, if there's something you're still confused about, or if you would want to take a look at it, or if you weren't able to be here, I'll save that. I'll record it, convert it over, and put it up on YouTube, and then you could see it. So the issue of, gee, I couldn't make it to class, I had to go to a tournament, whatever, you don't have to worry about that anymore. It's there for you, okay? The one issue you may encounter in this lab is I'm not sure what type of audio output you have, if any. So you may need to use a device other than one of these if you want to listen, but the screencast will literally just go right through what we're doing, and that will enable you, if you want, if you're sick or you have a tournament or whatever, you don't have to worry about what did I miss. You can see what we did. Fair enough? Okay, this is a nice technology. We've been using it with some of the graduate students, and I'm trying to kind of move our classes more to what I would call a hybrid model so we can accommodate your needs. You may be working. I know many of your athletes, you have to be gone, and I don't want to put you in that situation any further where you've got to rely on someone else. You'll be able to click the link and see what we did that day, and it'll be accessible to you. And I'll always, like today, when we're finished, this is the link. So if you wanted to join in, and if you were somewhere else, you could do so. And today also, now when I'm finished, I'll record this, and then I'll have the recording up there. So you'll see two links. One is the link to join the meeting. Okay, this is like a web conference tool, and then I'll have a second link there for you, so you can hear the recording, and it will be in YouTube. And I'll have the URL for you to do. So I think you'll find it very nice, very convenient, and probably a lifesaver in terms of dealing with some of your anxieties about I have to be gone and so on and so forth. Now, this is the home. Okay, I want to click up here, and normally what it will do is it will bring you over to a section that it calls modules. And these modules are just big blocks. Now what you'll notice is I've got them divided up by time, starting with week 0 and then week by week by week. And just like it used to be in Moodle, you take a look for a date and you'd see the stuff that we were going to do, what work you had to turn in, etc. Okay? Now, this course has a heavy emphasis upon a workshop type environment. And here's the reason. What we're going to try to do is give you a sense of what happens when somebody administers a database, the stuff they have to do. So we're going to be working with Access, and we're really going to be working on what I would call the back office view. And that is, how do you setting up a database, the concept of a data warehouse, what are the components of a database? How do we build those in? How do we make sure that we have integrity in the data? Why? The reason is that you're going to have to communicate with those folks. Okay. Luckily for you, you will be out running queries, working with databases. You do it already. You just don't know it, and you'll have that tool there, and you'll be working from a front office perspective. That is an end user. But to communicate with the people, maybe a vendor, maybe someone in an IT department, or if you head up your own company or you become responsible for somebody's company or a chunk of it, you'll want to understand this, because database technology is changing business in so many ways so fast, it's really hard for us to keep up. But this is the module view now. If you want, click right here first of all, and you'll see the typical kinds of stuff that you have when you have a class with me, different resources, okay, documents that are there. The typical thing, if you've had a class with me and say this looks very familiar, you'll note though, this is a lot cleaner looking and nicer looking than Moodle ever looked like. It was just nasty. And so I've got all these different resources here that we'll be using, and you'll be able to see. And in fact, one of these is going to be useful to you. This is how to make a transcript of a YouTube video. I think I have the settings of YouTube such that you can get a transcript. Now, it's not really good. It's not as nice as maybe a professional service would give you, but you can try it and see if it works. And if it does, then you can basically download a text file that has the verbiage in it. I would also say that if you look at these recordings, I would also click on, it might not be a bad idea to click on the closed captioning so you can see the verbiage as well as look. Does that make sense? Okay. I think you're going to find Canvas is a lot nicer tool. And again, the go-to place, and I know that's always what you're interested in, is what's due this week. You can always go to the syllabus, and that's why it's a little bit confusing in terms of how that's all put together. Now, what I will do is, we're still using Jupyter grades, and so I'll take grades from here and I'll still put them into Jupyter. So, you know, you'll want to check Jupyter to see, and this has a gradebook client too. It's not very good, but it's somewhat useful. And I'd like you to do this for a second. Click on the people. You all have that? Okay, click on people. And let's see if you get the same kind of list I get, maybe without IDs. You get a list of people? Okay, good. But you shouldn't have IDs. I should be the only one that has that. So if you need to contact people, you can. It does have an email client. And I think if you look to the left, you might see a little thing that says inbox. Okay. So you can send emails to individual people or to a group of people. All right. See what else we've got here. That's click on files. Okay. Now there's going to be some files in here that I have hidden from you, but files that we'll be using in the course, or files that I might use in the lecture, whatever, you're going to find them over here. Okay. So, and if you've had a class with me, you know I'll say, okay, this workshop, for example, or this case, whatever, here's the solution, here's when, and you'll know when to upload it. And I'll have those over here for us. But these are where you have all those files are kept, so you don't have to, really all you have to do is just do an alphabetical search for them and you can find them. Okay? With me so far? Okay. I think, as I said before, I think you're going to find this. Now, look, we're kind of doing an experiment here, so you'll have to work with me. But what I'm really trying to do is move us to a point where you don't have to be in this classroom in the seat to get the same instruction, and that's really driven a lot by some of the stuff the university wants to do, but also it's driven by my feeling that it really puts you in a tough spot. You know, when you're getting an athletic scholarship, you're asked to practice, you're asked to go to tournaments, you're asked to do things, and frankly, in my mind, you're basically working your way through college, just like I did. So I want to make sure I can use some technology to make your life a little easier and less stressful. So if you miss a class, you don't have to panic or go nutty. You can go see the thing on YouTube, which I think is a nice thing. Now, on Tuesdays, which I probably will make the days that are virtual, here's the way you can do it. You can either be in here, okay, and catch the live stream, or you can be wherever you would want to be. It doesn't matter to me. I may be here. I may be streaming from Oklahoma City. It just depends. Okay. But you'll have, once this is finished today, I'll convert it and then I'll upload it to YouTube and it'll be there for everybody to see. So if you go, I didn't catch something, whatever, you can go back and take a look at it. You know, you go to YouTube, you use it. You can scroll forward and backward and all that business, and use it as you want to. Now, there's some other features here on that left-hand side, the navigation. We've talked about the mailbox. You should have a calendar, okay? And it's basically going to tell you what's going on, what you've got going on that month. Okay, or a week, however you choose to set up or to set up an agenda, that's up to you. When you log in, okay, you typically, the first thing I would check if I were you is the syllabus, which will give you the listing of all the assignments that are due. Now I have a series of things here that I want to make sure that you're aware of and that you take a look at. First of all, here's the syllabus, okay, that has all the typical stuff in it. Here's the ethics code for the school. This course also has a supplemental website. So there's some materials over there. And then we have files for the Rockoff files, and that's this text. And then the Patrick materials, which is this text. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at databases from what we call, using what we call a data warehouse approach. and it says what it means what it says. A data warehouse is really a collection of databases that we have a way to go in and pull stuff from all those different databases to get what we want, okay? And that's where everything is at these days and where things are headed to. And so we're going to see how those are set up and why we would use them. Now, I'll have some other assignments for you, and we'll be using a site called Teradata. That's one of them. And you'll see I've got files for Access workshops, and we're going to use a client out of Access. We'll use an Access warehouse to see in kind of a small scale what a data warehouse looks like. Now, let me pop through here, and I want to kind of give you an idea in terms of what I think are some of the big pictures, big picture things here in terms of the course. Now, what you may find also, and it's a little bit glitchy on this system, when you get a file, it's probably going to be to your best interest to download the file to your desktop, especially when we're doing work in here, and save it to your desktop, okay, and then upload it back. If not, what will happen is the file will get caught in the system, and it'll be treated like a system file, and you'll have some problems. So you'll want to download the thing to your desktop, then save it, reopen it, and go back. For example, this thing here, this analytical cube, it's going to be a lot quicker and easier for me to download it and talk with you about it. And I want to open it up for just a second and kind of give you a real big perspective of what we're talking about. And you can do that as well over in Canvas. If you take a look at this, JPEG for a moment, you're going to see that we've got some what we call big dimensions here when we're looking at this set of data. One of them is the product dimension, okay? And then we also have another dimension in terms of the type of retailer that we sell. This is a company that sells products. Then we have another dimension in terms of time, and then we have another dimension, and then we have a thing called measures. Dimensions in a database are variables or attributes, stuff that are important to us, like what products I sell, my customers, what marketing channels I use. Then we have things called facts or measures, and that would be how many times somebody visited my website, how much did I have in sales for the month of whatever. And the whole notion of this is that we build this cube, okay, and then we can slice and dice this thing, and we can get a richer picture or perspective of the transactions that occur with our customers, transactions that might be occurring with vendors or suppliers, and customer relationship issues like communications and things of that nature. And it doesn't even address the issue of all of the data that's being collected out there. And you're going to hear about that in this course, and you'll be looking at it, and it's this notion of what we call a big data, and that's coming from the fact that we have taken chips and embedded them in everything we possibly can embed them in, and at the same time, what we've done is we've used them to feed into servers on the cloud. Now, a car, for example, is becoming more and more nothing but a vehicle that's really the thing that sells it is the software. And if you watch new car commercials or you look at them, they push the technology a lot. Well, that data is being collected, and it has value, okay? But it takes some doing to corral it and pull it together and get some use out of it. The whole idea from this notion of the analytical cube to data warehouse to being able to harvest stuff from the warehouse and all that is to create what we call business intelligence, okay? I want to take just a second to talk a little bit about what do we mean by that. And there's a thing that's called the wisdom triangle. And at the very lowest rung of it is what we call data. Data is just data. It's just there, okay? Then we have information. data that we can use for decision making. Okay? Then we have another level called knowledge, and that's information that can be repeated and reused. Okay? And then we have what we call wisdom, and that is knowledge that over time gives us predictive ability, or a sense of being, or an ability to predict what's going to happen with a set of transactions, a customer, or whatever. Now, all I can tell you is that you can have all the technology in the world, you can have all the databases in the world, but ultimately it has to be used and run by a decision maker who understands what they're trying to do. And so in this course, while I'm giving you some of the back office view, and while at the same time we're also looking at, and we're going to play around with SQL. By the time we're finished, you'll be very comfortable working with SQL. It's a command language. It's very simple to use, and there's not going to be any issue at all. You'll find that it's not as daunting as maybe you thought it was, but nonetheless, this whole thing is to enable you to know one key thing: key performance indicators. What 5 things does my company have to know every day to be successful? What information do I have to have so that I can sustain my company's mission, okay, and sustain its strategy so I can sustain its mission? And that's a tall order. A lot of companies, one, they're not really quite sure who their competitors are, and many times they don't even really know what business they're in. So for them to get a handle on their key performance indicators, that's tough. So we have a text here on business intelligence that walks you through that process, because what you're going to see more and more and more as you work, when you go to work, and you're paid for your mind, okay, is dashboards, reporting data, real-time data, and you're going to be asked to analyze it and to understand it, okay, and to put it into some kind of perspective. So we have the text on business intelligence that talks about that process and how it feeds into company strategy. IT, information technology, is decision-centric. That means it's something I use so I can make a decision. Now, computer science is language-centric. It's about the language of programming languages. Computer engineering is about how I build a machine, what are the components. IT is how do I use that stuff to make good decisions, and we'll talk about that. Now, I want to go back up here to the home for just a second, okay? And again, if you want to see things, how they're divided out, they're all in modules. And I want to scroll down here because I have a whole series of resources for you that I would like you to make sure that you familiarize yourself. One of them, and I think it's a very interesting one, is this resource. How Facebook is trying to get its machines to think like a human being. Okay. Facebook is a database, okay? That's what it is. And you and I are the people who fill that database, and then they try to build algorithms to understand what we like, what we don't like, what we would want to buy, etc. So this is a worthwhile bit of a resource to take a look at, so you can understand where things are going in these days and times. So now let me go over here, and I'm going to close that off for just a minute. And we'll go back over here. Go back into my canvas. I popped out of there for just a minute. We'll go back here. There are some other resources in there that you've seen me before. For example, this one from Harvard, these links to Harvard Business School and MIT Sloan Management, what's going on with them, their online publications. It's always a good idea to say, hey, what are people thinking about out there in terms of business? And how are they using technology to gain an advantage. Knowledge at Horton is another one, okay? And then Stanford has its own business insights. So I want to make sure that you take a look at those and you use those kinds of tools. Now, I'm going to start first of all with the and I want to make sure that we're all on board in terms of understanding the textbooks. This is the Rockoff text, so you should have it. This is a textbook that we're going to use to take a look at how Access is a good example of a data warehouse, and we have a series of workshops that we're going to do with that. This textbook will take some business problems, and we're going to write some queries, and we're going to learn a little bit about how that process happens and the different views and levels that we have when we build queries. And it's not going to strain your brain. You won't die or anything like that. You will be fine. Now, I also have some assignments later on that you'll be using. You're using this resource, Teradata University. So I want to make sure, okay, that you're kind of on top of them and have a good idea. Now, this is a resource that talks about big data and what is that, and what do people mean when they're talking about all of that, and you can pop out to that content and take a look at it, okay? And then this idea of the growth of what we call unstructured data. Unstructured data well, let me put it like this. Every 2 years now, we're producing more data than we produced in human history. That's an enormous amount, and just trying to keep track of it. And you think of all these products that have chips embedded in them that feed information to the cloud. Think about your phone. That tells almost everything about your life, where you are, what you were doing, what you bought, etc. How do we take that data and harvest it and use it in a way that we enhance a product or a service, or we enhance a customer's, or we enhance our relationship with our customer? And so much of this stuff is real time that it's amazing. One of the things that's really we're having a really incredible change is the use of mapping. And I've taken a few courses with a company, this Esri, that has a whole just bushel of applications, tools, and what they do is they use mapping and show you how to use mapping to enhance your company's performance, or to do things like find a retail location. And I went through one of their training courses, and we had to locate a retail outlet, and we had a whole series of layers that we added to that map. When you're looking at the weather, for example, what you're really looking at is a database with just layers. Maybe the wind speed is one layer. Maybe the rainfall is another layer. Maybe counter speed is another. And we're all used to looking at a weather map, for example, and seeing a thermal that'll show us, well, it's really heavy here, light over here, or the same thing with temperature. They're databases. So that's how powerful these technologies are, and that stuff's getting translated over to us every day in everyday business. Here is the wisdom triangle. You can take a look at it. And probably should have downloaded it so you could save from having a mess with it, but okay. It's just a nice, it shows you how we take data and we convert them, okay, using that process. And as I said before, it is all about, okay, it is all about getting data for decision making. Also, I have the Q. If you've taken a class with me, you've seen that before. Okay? And the Q just simply says the quality of the decision that we make is a function of a couple of things. One, known and unknown states of nature or conditions, and the other is known or unknown alternative courses of action. And I even give you a nice little illustration down here where you can see that you can see the levels of risk that are associated with decisions that we make. And our job is to try to move that unknown back just a little bit so that we can improve performance, okay? And you're going to be running into these types of conditions, and depending upon the industry, you'll tend to have some things that are very prevalent and things that are just not as prevalent. You'll be in some industries you're dealing with a whole lot of unknowns. If you work in the pharmaceutical business, for example, you're dealing with a lot of unknowns. You have no idea, okay? If you've invested billions of dollars in something or hundreds of millions of dollars in something, if it will work or it will kill people, okay? Or if it will kill people immediately or kill people 20 years later. And so you're taking a big gamble. So you're working with an unknown. Sometimes you're working with symptoms that you don't know what you're dealing with, and you're trying to take and find a solution or a remedy for a problem you're really not sure has what its cause is. So this will help you understand what we're paid to do, and that is to make good decisions and to try to move back those unknowns as much as we possibly can. So I wanted to, if you want to see kind of an overall theme of the course, that is really what it's all about. Now, I have some other resources in here, different databases, different types of places. Here's a link over to the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, okay? They do a whole lot of work, and you can only imagine there's a certain country in the world where they have the satellites going over that thing every 5 minutes, okay? And those satellites now are not only can they take a picture from up in space, they also have the ability to detect heat. They have a thermal detector, and so when we've had these sword rattling that's been going on, the folks over at this agency were. So instead of every 5 minutes, let's make it every 2.5 minutes, and we'll run it over that country. And the minute we see any heat signature that looks like it's a naughty thing to do, that's when the trouble begins. Here's a nice resource from Digital Globe, the Human Landscape. Here's OpenStreetMap. Just so many ways and so many things are out there. It's just mind-boggling. And all I can tell you is that even with just a client, like a desktop client, like say Access, or when you go to work for somebody, maybe you use SAS, Visual Analytics, or you use SAP, or use Oracle. The technology that will be sitting on your desktop will be technology that 20 years ago, 25 years ago, was completely state-of-the-art, completely out of the reach of the average business. But this stuff just keeps getting pushed down further and further to the point where you really have to be on top of it. Here's the Esri Business Analyst Online. I want to show you this. Okay, and you'll want to go there and here are some of the, they've got some features for you to take a look at. They give you, of course, they're selling their products, but they give you a good idea of the ways that they can be helpful, okay, in pulling data and taking a look. Now, some of you probably have been in a class with me before where we used Esri Tapestry, and click on the new tab there for a moment, and let's search for that. Let's search for Esri Tapestry. Now again, this is the free version of what they offer, and you want to look at the zip code lookup. And this is an incredible tool. I can put in a zip code, okay? I'm going to put in 74804, and this is the free version. The commercial version, the one you pay for, is even more powerful. This will show me, okay, I'm looking for 74804, where it's located, okay? It's going to give me what we call psychographic profiles or market profiles, the main ones of people who fit a certain lifestyle, income, educational level, etc. And you can see where it is, and you can see its surrounding counties, and you can see these are the three main types of person, if you will, that you're selling to or marketing to or working with. It also gives you data on income, And you see, I talked, we talked earlier about the thermal, and obviously, if you take a look, you could see on relative terms, maybe not as high an income as some of the surrounding counties. So if household income is an issue for you or a variable that's important to you, you're gonna give some thought to that. Not only that, you've got age, and you can see it uses that thermal concept again. When you took, those of you who've taken 1123 with me, when we did conditional formatting, that's all this is. It's just conditional formatting. And because as human beings, our eyes are trained to look at color spectrums or to look at ranges of things. So it's natural that we would look at a range of colors here, and they'd be arrayed in a way that shows us, this is a higher level, this is lower, this is even lower, and we have that type of information there. Then population density. Why would I be concerned? Let's say that I'm a home builder. I'm definitely concerned about population density because I want to know, is there a potential to build a housing addition here? Or is the place built out? Is it filled up? Or is there another type of housing that I might want to try to build here? Maybe I want to build up instead of trying to build out and try to house, in Manhattan, they don't have housing additions. They build giant buildings and people have apartments because space is at such a premium. Now, this product is, again, just the kind of the baby product, and these folks are the very best at what they do, and they have built an algorithm that mimics the United States Census. The census is done only every 10 years. These folks have built an algorithm that basically mimics the census on an annual basis, and they're not too far off. Each year they do a challenge where they're given 5 or 6 transactions in 24 hours, and within 24 hours they can take that transaction and they can tell you everything about the person or persons who made that transaction, everything. Okay, now this poses some privacy issues, and that's an obvious thing for everybody to understand. But by the same token, if you have this type of information and you can really layer in, you can see, okay, how valuable it is when you're trying to understand maybe where you're going to put a location, or you're trying to understand, why is my church dying? Well, if I'm in a low population area or I have a large number of older people who are leaving or dying or whatever, that might be the reason. We know that most of the time church growth is pushed a lot by just simply location. We know that the average person will drive about 12 minutes to go to church. After 18 minutes, it drops off to basically 0. Which is why your mega churches out there are usually located on a big highway in that area. So I wanted to show you that resource, one that you can take a look at. And we'll go back over to the files, the modules area. This is also here's a nice resource on the CIO and their viewpoint on business intelligence. You'll find that over here. And here's one of the things I wanted to show you. When you hear me talk about some of the proprietary products that are out there, there are two main vendors that have most of the business, and that's SAS, Visual Analytics, and SAP. And you'll be probably working with those clients sooner or later. If you work for a big company, you'll be working with them. They're very, very well done. They're very slick, and you'll be given a certain level of access based upon your management level, probably your level of responsibility. And you're going to find these tools where they do 2 things. One, they give us the best of a database, and secondly, they also have some pretty good analytical or data crunching tools. And those of you who've taken 1123 with me, we worked through, we ended up we looked at pivot tables. Pivot tables are about as good as it gets in Excel, because I can take variables and mix and match pull them together, see what they look like, convert the data from counts to percentages, etc. So the tools that are there, you know, are just outstripping our ability to really understand it. And it's the same thing with data. And when we bought a couple of cars this year, and I took a look at them, and I started kind of running some estimates in terms of how much of the value of this vehicle is software. Okay, and it came up, one of them, it was about a 35% of the value of that car was nothing but software. Just software code. It was chips embedded that will tell me it's time the tires aren't right, or change the oil, or even a little thing. When you're backing up, you can see you're backing up, or it has cameras so you can see on the side. All that stuff, by the time you're my age, will be all fed to an insurer who will write an insurance policy based personally on you, not on an actuary table, but actually on how you drive. We're already kind of getting there. I think it's Progressive and a couple of others that will let you attach a little camera or device, and they will see how you drive. So all of these analytics pose a real challenge for us, because it can get a little bit overwhelming, and we have to try to decide, okay, what's important for us to know, what's important for us to pursue or to take a dive down and understand. Here's an interesting company. They do nothing but work with odors. It's their thing. Okay, what stuff smells like, okay, and what does stuff taste like? And they have a database that helps them work with companies to figure out, how do I get a combination of smell and taste that will make my cookies the favorites in the entire world. Here's Experian, dealing with credit. Okay, this is an interesting company here, and I click on it for just a minute. This is American Finasco, and you might have I might have told you about it before. What they do is commercial debt reconciliation, and that is they identify companies, usually small ones, who are in trouble financially, and they use a database to find them. They will go find them through the court records. If somebody's being sued, if they've got tax liens, that's usually a signal that they've got cash flow problems and something's happened. And so what these folks do is they'll identify somebody that needs help, go in, find out how bad the damage is. Then they have a set of attorneys and negotiators back in their home office in Houston who take all that data and they begin to negotiate with the creditors. How do we get this paid out? How do we get this resolved? When I was up in St. Louis, I worked for them for maybe about 5 or 6 years, and doing that. And it was very interesting to see how we get our data. And at that time, you'd get the county record, you'd get a journal, a legal journal that'd say, okay, here's who got sued this week, here's a tax lien, et cetera. And you'd find the company, and then we go over down in Bradstreet, find them, and I would give them a call, and they might have me come out, and I'd sit down and talk with them. And what I usually found was that the problems were far worse than what was showing up in the legal journals was just simply the tip of the iceberg. But we could work with those. If we could work with somebody, we could save their business, and we could help them out. So this is a company. Now, the man who started this company was a Christian, and I think he's in his 90s now. But he based this idea on the parable of the dishonest manager, if you recall, who went out. His boss came to him and said, I don't need you anymore. And the manager said, gee, I haven't worked with my hands all my life. What do I do? And he said, I know what I'll do. I'll go out and I'll settle up the debt owed to my master. And Henry did that and found out that was what he was called to do. So it's interesting. It's an interesting thing to see. And again, they are a very, very interesting company. I've worked on the other side of the aisle too, with people do commercial debt collection, finding people. And I did some work with Experian Credit Services and helping companies get those set up and that type of thing. So some interesting stuff for us to think about again. Let's for a moment take a look over at the syllabus, and we'll talk about what we've got coming up, okay? And this will give us, again, the list of things that we've got due. Now, on Thursday, the 7th of September, you've got your first exam, okay? And then on the 14th of September, you'll see these things, and that's Access Workshop number 1 out of text 2. This is text number 2, Access Workshop number 2, number 3, and number 4. And then you have a couple of exams that shows you the time limits and the number of items in that business. And we'll be working on these, and once we do them, I'll say, okay, upload the thing, and away we go. Now, I want to go back over to the files for just a moment, and I want to look for, and let's use a little search tool over here, and let's look for anything that's an Access. Looks like it might be an Access Workshop. Not going to be any good. We may have to just scroll through them to find them. That didn't find anything there. Nope. Probably just going to have to scroll through this. Let's just go scroll through them and see what we got here. Now I'll check my note here for just a second. Okay, yeah. There's a database down here called the sales database, and I want to find it here for just a second. Here's the here we go. You're gonna, pardon me, I apologize. There's a file called the Rockoff files, okay, and there's a zip file, okay, and I should have downloaded that silly thing. So we're going over here. It's a zip file and has all the files that we're going to be using. It's called Rockoff. That's obviously that is the author of this textbook, and it is in a zip file. Okay, so you're going to want to open that up. Okay. Pardon me, and you're going to see a data warehouse file. Okay, and in Access, and then you're going to see one called sales database. Let's take this database warehouse and diminish your screen down, and let's throw it on your desktop and then open it up for a moment. And we're going to talk just a little bit about this idea of a data warehouse. Okay? Now, most of you who've had, well, those of you who've had 1123, you know, we did a little bit of work with Access, but not much. Okay, but just to kind of familiarize you again with the navigational aspects of it, at the top, like you'll see in Excel, Word, or any of these Microsoft products, is the toolbar. You'll have the tabs, okay, and then it works itself down like a tree, a design to take you down to what is specific task you want or format you want to use, whatever. In Access, to the left, you're going to see the Access objects. All databases have the following objects. They have a table. That's where we collect data and we store it. Okay. Then they have what we call a query engine, a way for us to pull data out of the table. Okay. And then they'll have a thing called a form typically, and that's how we input data into a data table. For example, when you do a Google search, you're using a form, and what you're doing is telling Google what you're trying to find, okay, and then it records what you find and whether you clicked it and you used it and you went there, etc. And when it does, then that's how it starts. When you go and do a search, you'll see it will resolve stuff for you, and that algorithm has made them, well, one of the richest companies in the world. Okay, so when you go to Amazon, okay, which uses a database, but it's called a recommendation engine. You start inputting data into a form when you make your purchase, or even when you're searching for stuff, it will give you a form where you'll call out, I want this in this size, whatever. Okay. So these databases are very subtle in terms of their difference, but very powerful. But they all have these objects. Not only a query, but also a report. Okay, so they have a table. That's where I store the stuff. A query where I can pull and harvest data out of that table. Okay, then a form, how I can input data on a easier, more intuitive basis. Then a report function will give me some output. And then they have some things like macros and that type of stuff, but we're not going to look at those. We're going to really be looking at queries. But I want you to notice something when you look on the left here, now just for navigational purposes, and I even have to remind myself I can click that over or back. It depends upon the view that I want. And then I usually try to look at all the access objects to see what I have. And I have two types of objects in here. I've got queries and I've got tables. Now I want to talk with you just a minute and take a look at these tables, and you're going to see that the nomenclature, the name of the table, is an indicator of what's in there. And you're going to see this thing called dim, channel. Okay? This is a dimension. A dimension, think of it like a variable, an attribute, some aspect of your business or the transactions related to your business that are important to you. This is a sales organization, and if you're a marketing student, you probably guessed already, that's the marketing channel. How did the transaction occur? Was it off the internet, through the mail, or on the phone? Okay. Now we have these things typically are called slowly changing dimensions because we've got internet, mail, and phone. What other way are we going to be able to sell somebody something? Who knows? So we have that dimension table, and we'll close it. We have another one on customers, and this is stuff. What do I want to know about my customer? Okay. I do a lot of work with churches with their databases, especially some larger ones, and it never ceases to amaze me how much stuff that they ask a visitor to fill out, and then they don't design things, their database such, and I know they're working with volunteers, such that they capture all the data. So they'll get reports and they'll go crazy because there'll be data missing. And one of the things we'll talk about is how do I design a form or a table using the type of data, a certain type of data, to get things in a format that I want and to make sure that I get the data. Right here is what I want to know about my customers: their name, their city, their state, their zip, who is the salesperson that deals with them, and then I have assigned a customer number to them. Okay? Now, in any type of software, if we have permission, we can go down under the hood, and we're going to do that. You can either click up here, and this up here, and you can go down to the design view, or you can right-click the tab, and let's go down to the design view, because right now we're at the data sheet view. The design view tells me, okay, what's what field, what attribute is important, and what type of data am I using or working with. That's important because it drives how I format and use that information. Okay, and you can see, for example, they've got the state, city, zip code, the salesperson. They're using a lot and using short text, and then they're using a number, okay, for the customer ID. And then they have some things called field properties down here. Okay. Now, let's look at this for a moment, just the state. This can become problematic because if you look down at field properties, if you see the field size, it goes all the way to 255 characters. That doesn't sound like a whole lot, but if you have 25 million customers, that's some serious data storage, and that starts to get you into some money. And how many of you can spell for me Massachusetts, much less pronounce it? Can you imagine with this database how people are going to be spelling state names? So if you want to do a query or search, you don't get them. And you say, why don't they just use the convention of two letters, and you would have a supporting table here, a lookup table, that would say, okay, if it's Massachusetts, what are the two letters for it? Anybody know? If I do the state of Massachusetts, what are the two letters to designate it? MA. MI is Michigan, right? Or is that Mississippi? MS is Mississippi, right? Montana is what? Is MT or MN? So you can see, would you rather have a table filled with misspelled names of states, or would you rather have it nice and uniform? And that's one of the things that when we get into building a table and making decisions about data, that's important. Is this the information we want for our customer? Well, this is what we've got in terms of this dimension. So we'll close this off just a minute. Then you're going to see we have a product dimension, and there are three things that we have here. First of all, we give every product number. The idea in a database is that I make each record unique. And a record is a combination of attributes. Sometimes you'll hear people use the word tuple. What they mean is here, this record number one is really two things, cinnamon and spice, and so they have products by categories, and they give it a number, just like you have a part number, or you have an ISBN for a book, so you can go find it and you can identify it. So they have information in terms of the product, and they have a product category. Now you say, well, I might want to also know the container sizes, blah, 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 blah. You'd add those into this table, or you might even create another dimension table in terms of product characteristics. Who knows? But this gives you the idea. You say, oh, okay, where are we headed to? Well, let's close this off and come down to another, and you're going to see a thing called prod categories. That's a production table. Open it up. Okay, a production table is a table that helps us look at, helps us build records so we can keep transactions, so we can keep records of transactions. Okay, it's a production category. And here we have production categories. We have C, ST, coffee, spices, or tea. Here's one for channels. It's the same as the others. Here's a production table for customers. Okay. Now you say, okay, where are we headed with all of this? What are we trying to get ourselves to? Well, I'll show you real quickly. I'm going to close all. If you come right here, you're going to see a thing called the fact sales. And open it up. Okay? This is a fact table. It's a fact table because it's a listing of all of the transactions that have occurred. You could say this is like the general journal in accounting. It's a list of all the transactions. I have the date it occurred. I have the customer number. I have the channel. Where did they buy it? How did they get it? Who's the salesperson? The ID of the product, the sales type. And you have either returns or orders. What's the line price? What's the line cost? The order number. This is a set of facts. This is where we draw, and we use those dimension tables and product tables to build this fact table. And that's what we harvest. Okay, so we could run a query to say, okay, how much stuff did we sell on the 6th of June? It'd be simple. We'd run a query. And let's do this for just a moment. And if you recall this a little bit back from 1123, let's close this off for a moment. And I'm going to click Create. And we're going to go down to the GUI, or the graphic user design. You said, well, this looks familiar. Very true. And from the fact sales table, I'm going to add it. Okay? And I'm going to come down. Now, this is the table. And I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to get the field sales date. And then I'm going to establish a criterion. Okay, well, what date do you want? Okay? Well, I want to know all the stuff I sold, okay, on the 6th of June. Okay? And we're going to run that query. And that gives us our, oh, I need to get the customer ID and salesperson ID. And let's see what we get here. And we had some sales on 667. Oh, it's 2000. It's 2011. My pardon me, folks. It's a 2011. Now I want to show you something here for just a minute. You'll notice if you look on your computer that it converted that date, put a pound sign in front of it, the date, and then another pound sign. What this does is the software is communicating with the machine, saying, okay, this is a date, but treat it like a number. Don't treat it like a number. Treat it like a category. And let's see what we got up here, and we'll run this now. And there we go. Now, one of the things about a database that's so powerful is that I use that fact table, but I didn't change it. And when I run this query, I'm getting what we call a view. I'm basically going in, I'm taking a picture of that table, and then using the query, the criteria, I'm photoshopping and getting what I want. So when we run queries, we store queries. We don't store new data. We don't have to we've got the same data there. Now, if you have permission as a database administrator, add to a table, etc., that's one thing. But the incredible beauty of this thing is that I can run these queries, and all that gets saved, or that has to be saved, is the code. When I first started working with databases, literally they had what we called a pointer that went down to a physical space in the machine and pointed to that. And then when we ran the query, we were literally creating a new table. That becomes problematic in terms of storage, especially if you got lots of customers or lots of transactions. So we've got that query there, and we'll close it off. But now we saw everything that we had to sell. We could have taken all of those. Now let's go back down, and let's go down to the design view. And we call this the graphic user interface because I'm doing object-oriented programming. Now there's another thing that we could do, and that is we could write some SQL, some structured query language. If you want to see that, let's go below. Okay, so click on SQL view, and I'll take you down to the query. Now I'm going to find a very friendly notepad and get this out here. I want to show you what we're looking at so you understand. This may look very imposing, but it's not. 95% of all queries are select queries. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select, okay, from the fact sales table, that's on the left, dot sales date. Does that sound a lot like an internet address? Yeah, same principle of going from a page to page or space to space is applied here. So I'm going to select from the fact sales table the sales date. From that table, I'm also going to get the customer ID. And from that table, I'm also going to get the salesperson ID. And the machine is stupid, so you're going to have to remind it, okay, what table are we working with? And you say from the fact sales table. And then we add a condition. Use a conditional statement or a criterion that says where the fact sales dot date, where the date equals the 6th of June 2011. And then we close off the statement, okay, with a semicolon. And right now you know more SQL than 95% of the people you'll ever work with. And that's pretty much the structure of how it works. So you can go from one view to the other. And this is a notion of the query view, okay, up to the graphic user interface, or what we would call the design view, or up to the data sheet view. Now, before we get out of here, because I'm going to let us get out of here, and then I'll save this, and I'll record this, so if there's something you missed or you nodded off, don't worry about it. You're going to see some queries down here, and you'll see kind of the run-of-the-mill in terms of typical types of queries. You're going to see one that says append. This is a query that we run to append data to a table. This is typically something a database administrator would do, but we'll see how they work and what they're all about. Then we can also, here's another append query. So we select stuff from one table and slap it into another. We can create tables with queries, which is, you really would be stupid to do that, because in most of these you can go into the table design and set it up a lot easier. And then you have this thing called DW sales, and let's click on it real quick and open it up, and there we are. There's my data warehouse sales in its full bloom. So if I want to pull data from here, I really can. This goes beyond the fact table. This is the warehouse. The fact table would be kind of like if you say, well, can you give me a list of all the junk you got in your inventory? And then here would be the master list. Okay, and that's why they call it a BW sales table. It designates that. All right. Here's the point. These data help us get some insights on who's buying stuff from us, when do they buy it from us, do they come back? Okay, what are conditions like out in the environment I'm working in? You can just, there's just no way for me to express to you how much this is changing business, how much it's changed it already. Because we have companies that really are, all they are is a database. Google is a database. Facebook is a database. Twitter is becoming a database. Okay, Instagram is a database. And all of us are the people who are inputting the data. So we can tell everybody up there, we can tell Mark Zuckerberg, here's what I'd like you to sell me. If you stream stuff off Hulu, you're using a database. If you download movies from YouTube, you're using a database. YouTube's a database. Used to be if a music group wanted to get rolling, they had to go find some company that would give them a contract that would suck their blood out of their life for 10 years, and then maybe if they did well, they could be on their own. Today, people just go on YouTube and put their music out there, and then they start getting hits, and suddenly, boom. Or Fuzzy the Cat, or whatever thing is everybody's looking at day by day. YouTube is a database. It stores videos, that type of data. Well, folks, I appreciate it, and what we'll do is I'll do a live stream. I'll save this and put it over in the announcements so you can take a look. And Tuesday, I may just simply do a live stream, okay? So you can come in here and you can watch. Now, one of the problems with this in here is that there's I don't believe you have audio output. So you might be able to use your phone, or I may just be condemned to coming in here and doing the stream from here. But if you want to see it and hear it, you can go back home, you can get your phone, whatever. There, you'll see on the invitation, it shows you different ways to use different devices to access the screencast. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next week. Yes. Take care, guys. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, so Tuesday, if I come here, I just like connect on Canvas.
Yeah, I haven't decided because we don't have audio output here, so I haven't decided if I may stream this from my office from the city. I might be here. I'm not sure. Okay. But either way, it's going to be there and be recorded. Yeah. Okay. Now, what you want to do is when you get a chance, go into the announcement, and once this is done, I'll post it in the announcements, and you can access it from your phone. Okay. Okay. Yes.
I don't think any of the computers have Word on them or any kind of Microsoft Suite installed to them. Yeah.
Really?
I'm checking each one, and none of them have it now.
You're kidding.
No.
Oh.
I was like, I could do it from my email, but
I don't have it in my computer.
add the whole computer system here.
Okay. I'll try to find out what to do about that. Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah, no problem.
seeing everything.
Yeah, it's like, that's this day and age. You have that, I know.
That's crazy. Absolutely.
Well, I just wanted to let you know.
Thank you. You betcha.
No problem. Have a good day.
You bet.